This is going to be a very great, selfishly for me, the session, because of the contrast, the opportunity to contrast two great stories of our times, the Tatas and Bill Gates. So I'm really thrilled to have Anupreeta, who did a book about Bill Gates, which is not his biography, and Harish as well, which is again not a biography, but it captures timeless lessons from the journey of Tatas. And I hope we are able to extract the best from them. I'll just kick it off, both of you. If you can handpick, if you can pick few qualities that define the Tatas or Gates, for example, the good, bad, and the ugly, I hope you can bring all of them. What would be some of them to kick off this conversation?
Go first. Okay, let me go with Jamshedji Tata first. He lived many years before Bill Gates, so chronologically that's the right sequence. With Jamshedji Tata, I think one defining quality which has really been the essence of the Tata Group as well is that he did what he did because he thought it was good for the nation. And let me just define that a little more. He wanted to put up India's first integrated steel plant. And why? Because he thought India should have its own steel. Why should this country import all its steel from Europe and England and places like that? He wanted to put up India's first major hydroelectric project, which is Tata Power at Walwan in Lonavala. And he wanted to do that because he saw that there was coal and soot in the mills of Mumbai. He said, how can we provide clean energy to the city of Mumbai? He wanted to put up a 5-star luxury hotel in Mumbai, which all of us know today as the Taj Mahal Hotel. And why did he want to do that? Because Mumbai had been devastated by the plague of the 1890s. And he wanted to get the financial capital of India back on its feet, and a resplendent symbol of that happening. So the first defining characteristic of Jamshedji Tata, I think, was that he did what he did because he thought it was important to the nation. He would find a confluence of a very good business opportunity and what was good for the nation, and invest in those confluences. The second defining characteristic was that he was a dreamer. He dreamt of many things. Not everything that he dreamt of succeeded. He had to shut down a shipping line, for instance, that he founded in the very early days. But he kept dreaming and dreaming and dreaming until the end of his life. So I would say nation building and dreaming are two very strong characteristics of Jamshedji Tata that I'd like to point out.
Yeah, no, I think the ability to spot a business opportunity, whether it's philanthropy or technology actually, is what defines Bill Gates. His ability to spot a market and his unique instinct for capitalism is something that I would say is defining for Gates, in the sense that when you think about Microsoft, at that time, when he founded Microsoft back in 1975, software was something that people just gave away for free. Everyone thought that hardware, computers, were the future, the actual boxes. But then Gates saw that the technology was one thing, the software was one thing, but then software should be proprietary, right? That it should be charged for. And that's the bedrock on which Microsoft was formed, right? So he saw an opportunity. He did the same thing with philanthropy, with the Gates Foundation, when he realized that there was an unmet need for social good, for private dollars to be able to fund social good projects. And so I think that instinct does unify who Gates is. The other qualities, I think unbridled ambition and also unbridled hubris. I think you need the two. You have to be someone who says that I want to do this and I can do this, and that's what defines me. And so I think that unbridled ambition is the second element of Gates.
Great. So Harish, I'll come back to you. First of all, what I loved is dreaming with details. It's not just dreaming, but dreaming with details. Spend a couple of minutes or 3 minutes on this whole idea, or the Tatas are synonymous with trust, and especially in India at least. So how did that journey of building trust happen? And one follow-on question with that would be, what happened when that was challenged? For example, the Tata Finance example where there was a problem.
So, trust is something that you can never demand. I can't stand here and say, trust me, none of you are going to do that. You have to earn trust. And as a business historian, as I've studied the history of the Tata Group, how have the Tatas earned this trust, if that's the thrust of your question? Thrust of your question, sorry. So here are 4 or 5 things which the Tatas have done. One, I think, has been providing consumers goods and services of very good quality and value. No one is going to trust the Tata Group unless the products and services that they offer are really good. So whether it's Tata Salt or Tata Tea or a Titan watch or Tanishq jewelry or a Tata Motors car or IT services from TCS, products and services that you can truly trust. And that, I think, the Tata Group is focused on. That was Jamshedji Tata's vision as well. The first enterprise he started, Empress Mills, in textiles, he only used long stapled cotton to ensure that the goods were of the highest quality. So it comes right down from there. The second thing that the Tata Group has done is, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but the Tata Group is majority owned by the public charitable trust, the Tata Trust. 66% of the Tata Sons, the holding company of the Tata Group, is owned by the Tata Public Charitable Trust, which means that 66% of the dividends issued by Tata Sons go to the Tata Trust and through them go to society. What happens to this money? This money has been used over the past 125 years and more to set up some of India's finest institutions, like the Tata Cancer Hospital in Mumbai, like the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, the National Center for Performing Arts. Right now, the Tata Trusts are involved in the establishment of about 20 cancer hospitals in various parts of the country. And so people in India have also seen the Tata Group do some good for the community and do some good for the community over the years. And when people see that you're doing some good for the community, that also, I think, engineers trust in your mind. So that's a second reason, apart from products and services being of good quality. The third is, over the years, the Tata Group has also tried to do business with integrity, with some principles that they keep in mind all the time. And that has been an ongoing endeavor of the group. Yes, there have been aberrations like Tata Finance, and I will tell you how the Tata Group reacted to that. But overall, I think the Tata Group has stuck to those principles over these years. And finally, people have seen this behavior of the group over not just 1 year or 5 years or 20 years or 50 years. They've seen it over 150 years. Our generation, our father's generation, our grandfather's generation, our great-grandfather's generation. The Tata Group is actually in its 6th generation now. So when you see a consistency of behavior over so many years, then people say there must be something to this. So I think these are the reasons, products and services of good quality, giving back to the community, doing business with a few principles in mind, and doing this consistently over not 1 year or 10 years, but over 156 years. This is what engineers trust. What you spoke about, Pankaj, just now, about Tata Finance, was an aberration, but it was a serious lapse, which happened now about 25 years back. There was a fraud committed in Tata Finance at that time. Tata Finance was a company in which small depositors deposited their lifetime savings. And the fraud was committed because of some acts by the leadership of Tata Finance at that time. But the Tata Group under Mr. Ratan Tata responded immediately. They did 2 things. One is, even though Tata Finance was a publicly listed company, Mr. Ratan Tata stood up and said the interests of every single depositor will be protected. It doesn't matter if this fraud has resulted in 500 odd crores going out of the balance sheet of the company. We will, as Tata Sons, put that money back. Despite, we were one of the the Tata Group was one of the shareholders, not the entire owner. And that was done virtually immediately. In fact, the Tata Group even kept a helicopter on standby to fly funds to small towns. This was in the pre-digital era, so that depositors could get their money back. And depositors trusted his statement. There was no run on Tata Finance at that time. And the second thing is, under Mr. Ratan Tata's leadership, he said that, whoever it is, however senior it is, whether it even be the MD of the company, if he or she is guilty, we should have them given due punishment under law. And that was done as well. I think both those actions, Pankaj, not just reinforced trust, but brought out the character of the group. Because you bring out character when things go wrong. When things are going right, I think everything goes by fine.
That's well said, and thanks for being so candid, Harish. Preeta, if I could come back to you, trust is fragile. And I think in Bill Gates' example, it was broken. For example, when episode happened, and the way, so reputation, how do you protect it? Or what can be learned from this example? There's Bill Gates and the way that trust was, it was fragile. So what can we learn Bangalore, full of entrepreneurs and founders? What can we learn there?
Yeah, I mean, exactly, it's reputation. There is trust, but the reputation of someone, and I think this is what Harish was getting at too, it's a social contract we have with billionaires, right, broadly speaking. Gates is a prime example, but we trust them, we venerate them because they've reached these heights by doing something that has created enormous value for society. So we give them that trust, and we respect them, and we admire them. And so when something happens to break that trust, it's like a god has fallen to earth, right? And that is kind of what happened with Bill Gates. It was a really, really surprising moment in the trajectory of someone who had been seen as one of the world's leading lights, right? And a philanthropist who was giving away all of his billions of dollars. But then in 2019, and then the period between 2019 and 2021, starting with the news that Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender who's now dead, and Bill Gates had met several times to discuss philanthropy, which is what Gates has always said. And then the divorce of him and Melinda French Gates. Now, no one cares, should care what happens between two people, right? But here is a public figure whose marriage is very tied to the future of the Gates Foundation, right? They are the two, they were before French Gates left the foundation. So that element of that idea that we're giving you all of this trust, we have this contract with you where if you let us down, we're going to look at you critically and in a different light, and we're not going to be as admiring of people. We will respect everything that you've done, but you'll always have that kind of suspicion that this is not who we had thought he is. And I think with Gates, since 2021, there were news of his personal affairs, and again, extramarital affairs, and again, no one's business except that when you are a public figure and there is an element of your reputation, of your brand, that I, Bill Gates, am X, Y, and Z, then it becomes like a significant change to how you are perceived in the world by everyone who put that trust in you.
Harish, can you take a minute and no more, talk about the reputation and handling it through Tata's lens that we can learn?
So I think handling reputation is a very, very important part of any corporate voyage today and any brand. My belief is that there are three things which are very, very important in handling reputation. One, be transparent. Something goes right, something goes wrong, but be as transparent as you can. That's one. The second is, it's often better to over-communicate than under-communicate. People should know rather than people should not know. That, I think, is very important. And the third is, I think it's important to have very credible ambassadors who speak for the brand in maintaining reputation, because people don't associate with an inanimate object like a company. People associate with people who are delivering messages. So that's your 1 minute, Pankaj, for you on reputation.
That's Harish.
No, I told you I'm overly structured, but what can I do?
Yeah, that itself is a lesson. Let's talk money. We are talking billionaires, and we cannot not talk about money. Wealth, how much is too much? And this question is coming from a lens of philanthropy, for example. So there is wealth creation that happens. Maybe, Preeta, you could start here, because we have also seen Gates, signing the giving pledge and the philanthropy and all of that. But then there are also priorities that get set in philanthropy as a sector. So what do you make of this relationship that wealth creation has with giving away? And what can we learn when it comes to Bill Gates?
Yeah, in the 19th century, when you had Andrew Carnegie, right, the whole idea of philanthropy came from what we call the robber barons in the U.S. You had the Vanderbilts, you had Andrew Carnegie, you had the Rockefellers, and that was when the idea of that private enterprise is good because it unleashes a lot of ideas and creativity, and then you shouldn't trust the government to use that money, so you shouldn't be paying as many taxes. Instead, you should use your smarts to decide how to give that money away. And that's kind of the capitalistic philanthropy that Gates has really followed, and I think Warren Buffett, who is another really big philanthropist, have followed. Now, when you look at billionaire philanthropy, it is, of course, an individual decision, from when to give the money away, how much money to give away, how much money to provide for future generations. These are all individual decisions. But the question becomes even more pertinent when you have this massive increase in wealth in the past several decades. I mean, in the US alone, you have 2,600 billionaires. I think in India, it's 150. And these numbers have shot up in the past 20 or so years. So then the question of what you're going to do with that money, if you're Jeff Bezos, who actually hasn't provided a detailed plan on what he plans to do with his wealth, or Elon Musk, for instance, the world's richest man, doesn't have a public plan for philanthropy. Others have sought, like Mark Zuckerberg of Meta, have sought to create these foundations that, where they're deciding that, okay, this is a cause we really care about, and this is where we're going to put our money. Say it's education, say it's healthcare. And so you're seeing different ways, and it's a complete, there is no pattern, right? Because these are individual decisions. But because of the amount of money someone gives away, like for instance, Bill Gates, right? He gives away, the Gates Foundation gives away $3 billion or so a year. The Gates Foundation is the second largest donor to the World Health Organization. So this is a public health entity. And if you have a single donor that's giving you that much money, there is no other way to think about it. It does skew the priorities of a health organization. Or if you're, a nonprofit on the ground and the Gates Foundation is giving you, say your total, the total you get every year is, say, 5 million. And if Gates is giving you 4 million of that, you're likely to do what the Gates Foundation thinks is the right target, say it's tuberculosis or polio eradication. And so that can really skew a lot of just the amount of money and the decision to give away that money does have this kind of underside to it that I think we don't explore as much, which was really fascinating to me to look at in my book.
No, that's wonderful to hear. Harish, balancing wealth creation with societal good is something, again, goes back to Jamshedji's legacy. How do you think it holds in today's world and today's the modern entrepreneurship or enterprise building?
See, I think when you build an enterprise, you build a brand or you build a business, that business has to make money for its shareholders. The economic engine has to work very well. So there is no doubt about that. Jamshedji was a very astute businessman. His textile mill was amongst the most profitable in India at that time. And I think all Tata businesses today are also astute in their respective spheres of business, which is why Tatas are market leaders in so many different segments within the country. But every business needs to also combine within itself an element of doing good for the community. So, I was in Jamshedpur just last month, and I saw the work that Tata Steel is doing for the tribal communities of Jharkhand and Odisha. Now, that's their way of giving back to the community in and around where Tata Steel is located there. But if you take a business that I worked with Tanishq, for instance, and Titan Company, and I can see my good friend Srini here as well. Tanishq, for instance, makes some exquisite jewelry, and many of you would be aware of Tanishq stores and Tanishq jewelry. But you also know that Tanishq runs Karigar parks, where Karigars or craftspeople in jewelry are given hygienic working conditions, are given good remuneration for what they produce. So that's Tanishq's way of giving back to the community of artisans. You go to Tata Chemicals in Mithapur, they make very good salt, they make very good soda ash, and they earn a lot of money from it. But at the same time, they also give back to the Rabdi tribals there. And they've created a handicrafts brand called Okai, where the Rabdi tribals actually work, create garments which are then available online for sale. That's their way of giving back to the community there. So there is no single, bullet point answer to what is the best way to giving back to the community. I think it's up to each business to decipher that. But are you actually doing some good for the community? In addition to generating money from your business and building a very profitable business, I think that is the question that companies have to honestly answer.
Sure. One final comments from both of you before we ask audience to ask questions is, in your explorations of Tata's and Bill Gates through your lens, what does it take to build an enterprise or a legacy or a reputation which is built to last? If there is one thing or couple of things that come to your mind, what are they?
Okay, so it is. This is a fascinating topic, Pankaj. I'm told, I have not looked at the most recent data, Preeta, but probably you'd be aware. I'm told that the average longevity of a Fortune 500 company is in the region of about 40, 45 years. That's the kind of time that companies live for, flourish, and then decay and die. But there are a few companies in the world which have outlasted that by a long, long period, one of which is the Tata Group, which has lasted for 156 years now. And this has been occupying my mind and I think the single thing that I would think is, if you need your company to live on for a long time, of course you have to be profitable and your economic engine has to work, but that's a hygiene factor. I think the most important thing is your company has to be in harmony with society. Your company has to have a give and take with society, I'm going back to the words of J.R.D. Tata, who was our chairman for more than 50 years, and he said with the Tata Group, what has really worked is that what comes from the people goes back to the people in some form. If you live in harmony with society, then society is happy with you as a corporate, and you can then live on for much, much longer. But if you try to extract value from society and don't give anything back or don't give commensurately back, then I think you're on the path to the Fortune 500 oblivion after 40, 45 years.
And yeah, no, I would say legacy is tied to creating institutions, right? In some way to be remembered, to have a permanent and long-term impact and presence in society. So if you look at Bill Gates, what he created in Microsoft, he is always going to be the co-founder of Microsoft. But now it's a company that runs itself. It is one of the world's biggest software companies. It's doing even better than before. And but it's for increasing, like for more Gen Z after newer generations, I don't think people are going to associate Microsoft as much as they say my generation did, or you're very young, and
Thank you.
so I think the ability to create institutions, the same thing with the Gates Foundation, right? So what has happened is he and Melinda French Gates were at the top of this massive philanthropic organization, but with his ex-wife gone, and Gates is now one piece of course his name is there, but he is one piece of this broader institution that has been created that has a long-term impact and will do well after he is gone, right? So I think the ability to create institutions that started as an idea was something you were really closely involved with, and then your ability to let go and have an organization that's outliving you.
Wonderful. I wonder what would Jamshedji tell Gates if both of them were in the hall?
It would be an interesting conversation. Actually, the last chapter of this book, this is the book I've been talking about, the book that on Jamshedji Tata and his ideas. The last chapter of this book is actually an imaginary conversation between Jamshedji Tata, Dorabji Tata, J.R.D. Tata, his successors. But we haven't brought Bill Gates into that ambit yet, but it would be interesting. What do you think, Preeta? What would they say?
I think they would agree on a lot of the themes. I don't know if they would do it as, if Gates would have done it as thoughtfully, perhaps, as the Tatas have, just really, really giving back to, and being very intentional about giving back to society. From everything you've said, I think that's been very methodical, constant for the Tatas, and I think Gates would definitely have takeaways from that. But there's also a humility, I think, in the way the Tatas have always conducted their philanthropic work, whereas with Gates, I would say that there is a lot of attention on the man globally, and I think he has warmed to it. And he does like to be courted by heads of state. I mean, he is given that star treatment. And it helps because he's a celebrity and it can get attention to health causes, for instance. But he does quite like that attention. And I don't know if Ratan Tata or any of the other Tatas would be kind of in that same, have the same response to huge attention and celebrity. So
Time is up.
time is up.
Maybe later. Thank you so much. Is there time for just one question? You go.
Hi, I am Sukhada, and thank you so much for such an inspiring talk. It was very interesting. My question is, have you noticed, and this is to both of you, have you noticed any sort of philosophical mindset in billionaires, specific to billionaires, that the common man can adopt as well to sort of elevate our lives?
Very, very interesting question. One of the things that I have noticed while studying Jamshedji Tata and his life is what I said right at the beginning. He was very ambitious for the purpose that he had set for himself, and he kept dreaming about what he could do. He had a very restless mind, and he didn't let failures come in his way. There were businesses he started which succeeded, and there were a few he started which did not succeed that well or did not go forward. So he kept dreaming and dreaming and dreaming until the last day of his life. I think that's something that we can take to heart as people. Doesn't matter whether we are painters or writers or dancers or corporate people. I think dreaming and dreaming and dreaming is good for us as human beings and individuals because it gives us aspirations that we can move towards. That's what I would say.
I mean, really quickly, I think clarity of mission and optimism is very important because you're bound to fail, right? So some of the takeaways that I've seen in just following the lives and businesses of billionaires is that they know what they want and they find a way to get there, and there are setbacks, and that's okay, and they don't give up hope. And I think no matter how small your project is, or if you're entrepreneurial, or as Harish said, whatever your goal or mission is, it's good to have that clarity, and I think that is something we can all take away.